Good evening and welcome to TV47 Weekend Edition. Glad that you could join us tonight on the broadcast. Now later on To The Point, we'll be tackling an issue that has sent shockwaves across our region, a tragic and senseless act of violence that has caused the region to rather just be talking about the concept of, not really the concept, but gender-based violence. Now our guests are already in studio and they'll be helping me to talk about this matter in terms of the role of advocacy and a collective action, a call for collective action to ensure that this vice is completely dealt with. Now TV47 Weekend Edition begins now with the headlines. Tonight, sharp focus shifts to safety in boarding schools countrywide in the aftermath of the Endarasha school tragedy, amid calls to have mandatory inspections of all boarding schools. The DCI is set to begin a long process of identification of bodies involving DNA tests after the fire tragedy results in bodies burnt beyond recognition.
And during the autopsy, we will be documenting the cause of death and also taking samples for DNA, which will later be reconciled.
And debate rages over the supposed deal between the government of Kenya and multinational airport management firm Adani over management of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, triggering protests and criticism over the deal's apparent opacity.
Fanya maajabu. Hawakufanya hivyo kwa kufanya secret deals. Yani bila kuhusisha umma.
All right, welcome once again to this live broadcast. Remember to follow it live on our social media platforms at TV47KE on Facebook and YouTube, and TV47 News on X. The hashtag is To The Point at Odida _. And remember to also send in your feedback at 224047. Sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloi. My name is Odida. Let's get started. Now, following the fire that broke out at Hillside School, destroying a dormitory and leading to the deaths of 21 students so far, various leaders have continued to express a range of opinion about the incident, with some announcing specific measures to prevent such tragedies in the future. Our reporter Quinto Wafula has more.
The tragedy, which has left the nation in a state of fear mixed with grief, at the same time revealing that many boarding schools do not meet the required safety standards for students. Mombasa's Governor Abdul Swamad Nasir has announced that inspection of the condition of school dormitories in all schools across the county will begin tomorrow, stating that all school staff and learners will be trained on how to handle fire emergencies.
Nazungukia shule zote katika Mombasa kuwafanyia free analysis bila ya malipo yoyote kwa shule, kujua kama kuna fire escape, kuna fire extinguishers, na kuweza kuwapatia ile basic firefighting skills wale watoto na walimu.
On his part, Narok's Governor Patrick Ole Ntutu has called on parents to take the lead in advising their children, citing that incidents of fire are often caused by rogue students.
Kuanguka kwa mtihani sio mwisho ya dunia, ambaye wanaogopa hii mtihani ndio wasifanye, ndio isijulikane nini nafanya. Nyinyi pia pasta na bishop, ombea watoto wetu, tuombee Mungu watoto wetu, kwa sababu ikiendelea hivi sasa, kama hiyo bili imefanyika, budaza sasa hivi tusikia kila pale.
Bishop Anthony Muheria of the Catholic Diocese of Nyeri has sent condolences to the families of the victims, urging all Kenyans to stand in solidarity with those who have lost their loved ones.
When tragedy strikes, is a moment of unity. It's a moment that we seek solidarity. It is a moment we should come together around our brothers and sisters, every single Kenyan, wherever you are, and praying that you may pray for these young ones, you may pray for their families, you may pray for this institution that is clearly at this moment in the state of shock.
Kuombea familia za wote ambao kwamba wameathirika na janga hili, ya kuwa hawako peke yao, hawako peke.
Starting tomorrow, the nation will observe 3 days of mourning for the young champions, with the Kenyan and East African flags being flown at half-mast. Quinto Wafula, TV47.
Indeed, we extend our condolences to the parents and affected families at Endarasha Hillside Academy. Now, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, is on Monday set to begin the process of identification of the bodies of the victims of the Hillside Academy fire in Endarasha. According to Nyeri County Commissioner Pius Murugu, the bodies have been preserved in the Naromoru Level 4 hospital, awaiting the crucial process of identification caused by the extensive damage to the bodies, hampering easy identification. And as this happens today, residents and relatives of Endarasha victims converged for an interdenominational prayer service, as George Maringa reports.
A cloud of grief continues to hang over this once peaceful and vibrant neighborhood in Endarasha as tragic mystery surrounds the circumstances which led to the fire at Hillside Academy, Endarasha. Come Monday, the DCI is expected to begin the process of identification of bodies, a process that government pathologist Dr. Johansen Odwar warns will take time.
Managed to come through the building in which these young boys died as a result of fire incidents, and as per now we've looked through and were able to get 19 bodies. These bodies are burned greatly, to a great extent, to such an extent that it will be very impossible for their parents to be able to identify them. Being that our principle is ensuring that the dead get united to their relatives, we are going to do what is called DNA. So from here, the bodies will be taken to Narumori or a hospital, after which we'll do autopsy from next week. On Monday, the relatives will be undergoing a process of collection of DNA from them at the hospital by the government chemist. Then on Tuesday, we'll start the autopsy, and during the autopsy, we'll be documenting the cause of death and also taking samples for DNA, which will later be reconciled, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to unite the parents to their children. That is all. Thank you.
A day before the identification begins, the emotions ran high for relatives of the victims and residents during an interdenominational prayer service within the school on Sunday. Faces full of despair and bearing the marks of deep pain and incredulity. While confirming that the DCI will lead the process of identification of bodies, Nyeri County Commissioner Pius Murugu further revealed that the government will foot any medical bills incurred by survivors admitted to various hospitals, as well as taking charge of the funeral arrangements for the deceased.
Na hii idadi inaongezeka kufika watu 21, vijana 21 kwa sababu kuna wawili ambao waliweza kuaga hospitalini. Kutokana na takwimu zetu ambazo tunajumuisha kutoka kwa Red Cross na polisi wetu hapa, kati ya vijana 156, vijana 139 wameweza kujulikana kule waliko. Aidha wale wako manyumbani, wale wako hospitali, ama wale ambao wametuacha.
George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Let these parents know their waiting may not be in vain.
Residents of Uasin Gishu County were victims of an overseas job scam, arrested and handed the suspect over to the police. A key suspect who is alleged to run a recruitment firm at the heart of Eldoret City. The victims, who had stomached the defrauding claim to have made numerous complaints to the authorities, with no action being taken against the suspect, who is said to have scammed job seekers out of more than 500,000 shillings, promising them lucrative jobs overseas, a promise whose delivery was not forthcoming. Morgan William reports.
In a classic case of enough is enough, victims of alleged fraud by a firm operating in Eldoret City that was promising jobs abroad at a fee arrested the key suspect and handed him over to the police. The plot thickened for the recruiting firm when a number of victims pitched camp at the suspect's home as from Saturday night after learning he was in the house.
Nilitembelea ofisi na nikaahidiwa ati baada ya miezi 3 ndakuwa nimepata kazi. Na ni since 2023 Januari nililipa 200,000 na mpaka saa hizi sijapata pesa zangu na sijapata kazi.
Na watoto sisi tunalia, sisi hatuna pesa. Sisi tunaangamia katika hii town hii sasa. Tunatafuta hii jamaa, lakini kwa uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu tumepata hii jamaa.
The apprehension was successfully executed with the help of hired private security personnel. The victims alleged that the suspect who runs the farm had been on the run after complaints of defrauding job seekers at large sums of money.
We had to look for other people privately, ambaye they are also officers, ndio watumie kutusaidia kukamata. So we had a different officer outside Eldoret police station. And that's why we are saying these people are compromised.
The early Sunday arrest did not miss some drama in it. This as the suspect is said to have mounted an escape effort by trying to evade the wrath of his alleged victims by attempting to cut through the grill separating his and his neighbor's house.
Sasa venye tulisikia anakata grill ya dirisha tukakimbia. Nadhania venye tulikimbia pia na nyuma naye afisa wetu akatu advise vile tutafanya. Adhania tuko nyuma ndio afungue mbele, sababu mission yake ilikuwa afungue mlango wa mbele apande kwa nyumba yenye ilikuwa empty upstairs ajifiche huko. Sasa bahati venye alifungua akapatana na huyo afisa hapo.
Police have been accused for dragging their feet in dealing with fraudsters, with residents losing millions of shillings in schemes that promise to secure jobs and study opportunities abroad. Mwegi William, TV47.
All right, Bungoma County is among the counties with high rates of malaria cases, a disease that is said to be very dangerous on pregnant women, the elderly and children under 5 years old. Our reporter Wanji Sostin has highlighted the misconceptions and traditions regarding the treatment of malaria and antenatal clinics for pregnant women, cases that are said to be obstacles that prevent efforts to curb the disease. Take a look.
It is at Mufule Village, Kandui constituency, Bungoma County. This is Johnny Wanyama Kimande's home. We met his wife, 40-year-old Christine Wanyama, doing her domestic chores. Christine, a mother of 5 children, is one of the women who regrets of paying attention to retrogressive traditions and failing to attend clinic when she was pregnant. She narrates to us her ordeal.
2020 miezi 3. 2021 pia ikatoka ikiwa na miezi 4. Ilifuatana tu hivyo, na wakati nilikuwa naenda hospitalini, ya kwanza ni malaria, ya pili tena ni malaria. So nilipoteza watoto.
Kuna ile sana, nafikiri ni sana potofu ya kwamba mama kishapata ujauzito anakaa tu pale nyumbani, hawezi enda matibabu ama tembelee clinic.
Wanyama said that after receiving information from a community health promoter CHP about the importance of pregnancy clinics, she decided to seek help at a health center.
Kanielezea kwamba kuna mbu ambayo iliniuma ndio ilisababisha nikakuwa na malaria. So kwa sababu nilichelewa kwenda clinic mapema, hiyo ndio ilisababisha kutoka kwa ujauzito.
A few kilometers away from the Wanyama's home is Jendrik Skima, a 36-year-old mother of 3 from Lohuna village in Kabuchai constituency. The difference here is that she lost only one child compared to Christine. In her family, the importance of ANC is not recognized, and she was often advised not to attend clinics during her pregnancy.
Karibu miezi 6 sikuwahi enda kliniki. Kwa sababu mzee na mama na kimila walisema ukienda kliniki unaweza malizia huko wakati, ukienda peke yako unakaa huko, wanasema uchunge ng'ombe, vitu kama hizo.
Not only was she barred from attending clinic, she says that she did not even get permission to buy clothes and basic necessities for her infant, with her relatives holding on to a belief that to do so will be useless and could cause death.
CHF wangu alinitembelea, akajaribu kunielezea lakini sikusikiza. Tena akasema ni pange plan yangu before nijifungue nikuwe kama nimetayarisha kidogo, niko na pesa, niko na nguo za mtoto kadhalika. Nikakataa kwa vile mimi nasema ukitayarisha, ukinunua kama taulo ama nguo unaweza jifungua vibaya ama hata mtoto anaweza kufa.
In efforts to deal with these misconceptions, some stakeholders have undertaken the responsibility of sensitizing the public on how to control malaria infection. Isaac Sifunji is the head of Breakthrough Action Organization in Bungoma County.
We are supporting the sub-county team and our facilities to address them by using the community action cycle, where we have a multi-sectoral approach.
Sifunji says that many pregnant women turn a blind eye to the importance of the clinic, saying that a large percentage attend the clinic fairly.
They believe that they need to keep pregnancy as a secret up to a certain months first, like say 7, before they can now expose it. And you see at 7 months is already late.
According to the Ministry of Health in Kenya, more than 3.4 million cases of malaria were reported, with 11,800 deaths reported each year, and those living in Western Kenya are at a high risk of malaria. Wanji Sostin, TV47, Bungoma.
Thank you, Wanji Sostin, for that report. Now, still on that bit, Kenyan and Ugandan health authorities have beefed up mpox surveillance at their common border points as the number of infections in the region increases. Truck drivers are now forced to wait for longer hours in the Kenyan county of Busia just to be cleared. Drivers who had only planned for normal crossings say they have been hit hard by the measures that have been put in place to control mpox in the border. As Joel Kingori, a season-long distance truck driver, says everything has changed since the first few cases of mpox were reported in Kenya.
Discover that because of the border, some of the contacts are actually across the border on the other side in Uganda and not just in Busia. And in fact, among the 4 scares that we've had, including the one that turned out positive, 2 of them were actually manual workers who had crossed in from Uganda, and they are doing some manual work in Kenya here in one of the villages across. And so when we reached out to them, our surveillance teams reached out to them, samples were taken. Unfortunately, before they could even be put somewhere, some of them had already disappeared and crossed back to Uganda.
Now, a section of airport workers held protest at Moi International Airport in Mombasa County against the government's highly controversial deal for the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA, with Adani Airport Holding Limited. Adding his voice to the debate, opposition leader Kalonzo Musyoka denounced the government for making the deal allegedly without involving the public, Senate, or the national government. It might be a way of putting money to individuals' pockets. That is according to the opposition leader. Anastasia Mukabi reports.
Kenya Airports Authority workers protested at Moi International Airport in Mombasa County against the government's deal with Adani Airport Holding Limited, saying it is a rip-off.
Proposing that the laws of our country to be repealed, the concession order, we have the Passenger Service Act. Adani is writing at Parliament, they have to change. Why? What Adani is proposing here, it is what Kenya Airports Authority can do.
The aviation workers claim that Adani was rejected in several other foreign countries. Therefore, the company is set to bring troubles instead of upgrading JKIA.
When you sell something to a foreigner, yet they are investors in our country, who can help in such modernization, it tells you there is something fishy. The staff are here, they have worked overnight, some of them are crying, they are going to lose their jobs. Of course, you can't assure us that an investor who is not accepted in another country will come with a goodwill.
These workers have called on the leaders across the country to join in the fight and stop the government's deal with Adani.
The leaders in the political class, the legal fraternity, the Kenyan people to come out and team up together with us as we say no to Adani.
Azimio leaders Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa denounced the Kenya Kwanza government for making a deal with Adani allegedly without involving the public and the national government.
Hawakufanya hivyo kwa kufanya secret deals, yani bila kuhusisha umma. Bunge tukimaanisha Senate na National Assembly, yani unasoma vitu ambavyo ni vya ajabu kabisa.
Upande wa Sri Lanka walifukuzwa huko. Upande wa Bangladesh tumekuwa na maandamano hadi serikali ikaangushwa tukiwa na hii Adani Group. Na hiyo sasa ndio imeletwa Kenya, inapewa airports zetu. Tunataka tuseme no to the dubious Adani deal.
Anastasia Mkabi, TV47.
Right away from that, Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Cooperatives, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Wycliffe Oparanya, has insisted on oversight of cooperatives to be conducted by SACCO Society Regulatory Authority while presiding over the General Members Education Day for Lompasago SACCO. Oparanya pointed out that some cooperatives have been using unscrupulous means to evade oversight. According to the CS, the Cooperatives Bill 2024 and the proposed amendment will help in ironing out some of the issues that have been bedeviling SACCOs and cooperatives.
These weaknesses. And we have come up with the Cooperative Bill 2024, which is already before the National Assembly. We have also proposed amendment to the SACCOs Act so that SASRA has more powers to supervise all deposit-taking cooperatives.
Cooperatives, we are mandated by the national government on matters of registration of members to the Social Health Insurance Fund under the Social Health Authority. So we'll be coming back to you again to work with you to help us in the mobilization of our residents of Nairobi to register on SHIF and SHA.
Tunasema ya kwamba jinsi chairman ameitisha kama kutakuwa na any funds za kusaidia watu baada ya kutupa kule nje ipotee, kuna structured model ambayo tuko nayo Lubasago ambayo inaweza kuja kusaidia our members. Jambo lingine pia, wakati wa hii affordable housing tungoja bado tupate nafasi kwa affordable housing, hawa members wanadisau kupata hizo manyumba. Hatusemi manyumba mingi, lakini hata 50 of them wakiweza kupata itakuwa ni hatua kubwa kwetu.
Now, creatives across the country have expressed their disappointment with how cancer treatment is being handled in the country. Now, while speaking during the arrival of Winnie Bure's body at Moi International Airport in Mombasa, the creatives are calling on the government to make cancer treatment affordable and create more awareness so that many people who are not able to travel abroad for treatment can benefit. Winnie Bure was battling with breast cancer for about 2 years and succumbed to the disease while receiving treatment in Turkey.
Treatment is very hard. So when you don't have that money to get to do the tests, you give up. That's the reality. And I would just like to ask the government at least to make this thing, if not free, at least affordable.
And I just want to ask the government, you know, it's high time. We see how this treatment can be made affordable.
Kansa imekuwa ni ugonjwa ambao unasumbua kila mtu, but if our systems zingekuwa na njia ambazo zinaweza zikarahisisha haya matibabu, probably hatungekuwa hapa. Maybe angekuwa amepata kujua na mapema na akaanza na mapema zaidi ya vile alivyopata.
Cancer is no longer a disease for the rich. Kila mtu. And what Winnie was really for,
she wanted to create the awareness. Alisema from the people wenye wako huko mashinani, they do not know about the disease, yani na causes, so they need that awareness.
She was such an inspiration to most young people.
Let us support and keep Winnie's legacy. I think that's the best we can do, because Winnie is a symbol of hope. She really fought to be alive.
The discussions which have been ongoing, I can't say much right now, but I know it is work in process. But one thing I know, it will take some time. It will take some time. It will not transform within a day or two, but eventually we may get someplace.
Condolences to the friends and family of Winnie Bwire. Now, following a string of deadly hyena attacks in Juja, the Kenya Wildlife Service has ramped up efforts deploying specialized officers and equipment for a relentless 24/7 operation. Officers from Laikipia, Nakuru and Nairobi are on the ground, with Joseph Dadache, Senior Assistant Director for Central Rift Conservation, leading the operation. At a weekend briefing in Nyakaba, Juja, Dadache revealed that advanced gear, night vision tools, traps and lures will be used to capture the rogue hyenas and restore safety.
Operation hii itakuwa ya 24 hours, usiku na mchana. Kutakuwa na vifaa kadha wa kadha ambavyo tunatumia. Tuna vifaa vinavyotumika kuona usiku, night vision. Pia hiyo inawasaidia askari kuweza kuona usiku, hasa wakati ambapo kuna giza. Na kuna vitu tunaita callbacks ambazo ni milio ya wanyama ambayo inachezwa ili kuweza kuvutia wale wanyama mahali walipo, kwa sababu utakubaliana na mimi kwamba masaa usiku kuweza kutafuta mnyama umuone na uweze kumshughulikia ni kazi ngumu. So hiyo inasaidia katika ku-attract wale wanyama katika maeneo fulani fulani.
And we have agreed that from Monday there will be an operation in this area to look at the issue of dam sites which are not under control. The other issue is that after they come from that 5-star hotel called the dam sites, we have created some other 7-star hotels, which are the lodgings and the bedrooms for these hyenas, in the form of abandoned quarries. You know, this is a quarrying area, and clearly people have flouted with impunity and abandon the NEMA requirements and regulations in terms of what do you do with a quarry after you are done with it.
Now, women traders in Homa Bay are sounding the alarm of a severe sardine shortage that is omena, caused by clashes between Ugandan police and Kenyan fishermen. Prices have surged dramatically, with omena that once costed 1,000 Kenyan shillings now hitting 2,000 Kenyan shillings. Maria Yako, a local trader, says the price hike has wiped out their profits, making it tough to serve customers. Traders are now calling on the government to step in urgently to restore normal trading environment.
Kwa ile ndoo moja ya 10 kg. Sasa hizi omena bei yako iko juu sana. Ukichukua ukienda nyumbani unaenda tu bila pesa. Polisi kutoka nchi ya Uganda anasema tu waache tu watu wangu, ukienda tu huko kutafuta chakula wachukue, pate tu chakula kidogo, wezi tu piga watu wangu, ende tu kwa maji kabisa.
Mambo ya omena ni mbaya. Omena bei yake ni ngumu kabisa. Ndoo shilingi 2,000. 2,000 hata ukinunua shilingi 600 hauwezi toka. Ni kidogo kabisa. Watu wa Uganda wameingia Kenya, wanakataza watu kuchukua omena kwa maji. Sisi wanawake tunaumia. Tunaumia serikali. Raila na rafiki yake aingie katikati, asaidia sisi.
All right, that report right there is taking us to a very fast short break right here on TV47 Weekend Edition. Stay with us. Up next will be Sports News.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be.
The time of 1 hour and 56 seconds as Marion Kibor took home the women's title with a time of 1 hour, 8 minutes and 55 seconds.
Mzuri sana ingawa the race was very hard.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair in the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic kids and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair in the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons,
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
we cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights,
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer centric.
strategies,
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
and stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor. My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
All right, welcome back to this live broadcast. To the Point starts now, and on our conversation tonight, we are talking about GBV. Our guests are already in studio. Just right next to me is Michael Onyango, a member of the Men Engage Alliance. Now, this is an alliance, an organization committed to educating men and boys to stand against GBV and promote positive masculinity, I believe. And right next to Michael is Mary Njoki Minor. Mary Njoki is a dedicated GBV advocate who works tirelessly to support victims and push for stronger legal frameworks. And Mary is from Usikimye. If you are very keen, you've heard about Usikimye. It's an organization that really advocate for victims of GBV. Now, they will be helping me to us to understand more about this topic and the measures that we as a country are taking to ensure that GBV is completely dealt with. Remember, when we were beginning this conversation, we stated that it was ignited by the recent murder of Rebecca Cheptegei. This is a Ugandan athlete who was murdered by her Kenyan boyfriend right here in Kenyan Trans Nzoia County. And we really just want to understand more about this topic. As always, we start by defining the term GBV, and the United Nations says this is any harmful act directed to an individual based on their gender. It includes physical, sexual, psychological, and economic harm. Now, I'll just start with you, Michael. What are some of the misconceptions that you've heard about gender-based violence, and how have you tried to address this topic?
Okay. Good evening, viewers. My name is Michael Onyango, as you have heard. Many a times you find that when we are discussing about gender-based violence, communities think that it's only about women and girls. And that's more the reason why a lot of individuals within the communities have tolerated the gender-based violence to continue to a level where it has reached that stage where even killing is going to be like normal. And so many people, or perpetrators, are being taken to court, and sometimes there is no sufficient evidence to actually charge them with the crimes of abuse, and you find that the next day is outside there having committed crimes, especially against children, women, and even men, because we have identified that also men and boys are exposed to various forms of gender-based violence. So as an organization, we are encouraging people and actually sensitizing them to be able to take action, because it will happen to you tomorrow. The next day, it will be me. So before it reaches that point, we have to do something as a community, as a nation, and also the government.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that. Now, Njoki, Mike has also mentioned that when we talk about GBV, usually it's more inclined to the women's side. Have you, by any chance, dealt with men at Usikimye? And also tell our viewers what Usikimia is all about.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Mary Njoki. I'm a counseling psychologist. I work with Usikimia. Usikimia is an organization that works towards ending the prevalence of gender-based violence. So we are in a community where we try and advocate against gender-based violence, so that we talk to people and also deal with cases. So once cases are reported, how do we take action? When a case is reported, say someone has been abused by their partner, do they know the referral pathways that they need to go to be able to get assistance? So we help survivors of violence be able to report to the police, get medical support, get legal support, and definitely psychosocial support. Today, what has triggered this conversation is case of Rebecca, which is very saddening. Only this year we've had over 157 women who have died by femicide. That's one too many lives to count. And it's a cry for help, that action needs to be taken. And we're passing our condolences to the family of Rebecca and all the other survivors who've been victims of femicide. Yes, back to your question, yes, do we deal with men? Yes, we do. And not so many men will report, which does not mean that the cases of gender-based violence are not happening among them. It happens, but there is a lot of stigma that is perpetuated by the societal perception that men should be strong, a man should not be speaking up, vumilia, wewe ni mwanaume. These are things that make men not to report, or cases not to be reported and followed up on. Yeah.
All right, I think now that brings us to our next slide, which is types of GBV. We have physical violence, sexual violence, emotional, psychological type there. We have economic violence and digital violence. Now, just to start with you, Mike, how do you engage men in understanding GBV and when they're being affected by their significant others?
Okay, our society, being a patriarchal society, we find that at times men don't relate or are unable to identify the forms of violence that you are describing there. They could be exposed to the forms of violence that are there, like physical violence, sexual violence, emotional and psychological violence. More so, the kind of violence that boys and men are exposed to, emotional and psychological violence. And you find that when we go out to the community to sensitize and engage with men and boys, they open up. But at times they are afraid of opening up because they are scared or are afraid of how they will be taken within their peer groups and even in the community. More the reason why when boys and men are exposed to gender-based violence, they do not go out to report. As organizations and as movement, we encourage, but through sensitizing them, to identify and get to know the type of violence that they are experiencing. And through self-expressing themselves, they are able to talk about it and share it with the relevant authorities. Because at times, the issue of talking about violence is also something that many boys and men do not want to discuss, because at times it could be the people themselves who are actually engaging in that form of violence, and they think it's normal. And since they think and feel that it's part of life, then changing or transforming into into a person who actually respects either the female and girls that they are in relationships with, so that whenever such a situation occurs, then they are able to check themselves and their actions so that they can control their actions. You know, sometimes when a man is exposed to a situation or an environment that they feel they are unable to handle, then they react. And their reaction at times is negative. And that is why we are trying to sensitize men to be able to transform and adopt positive masculinities. Yeah.
All right. Now, Njoki, there's one that caught my eye here, digital violence. You know, this is not talked much about. And it turns out that even online bullying is a form of GBV. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Cyberbullying is one of the forms of violence that is not talked about, and it's very prevalent. You'll find people in intimate relationships, for instance, will share maybe nude pictures, and then someone, once you've been, you have had a disagreement, that this would be shared in the public. Why were you sharing such pictures? A lot of victim blaming and a lot of catcalling will also happen for the people who've shared or who are even on social media. That does not only mean that in that aspect of sexual assault, it could also be in instances where someone has just dressed and posted a picture of themselves, and then they are cyberbullied based on their appearance or just based on how they carried themselves in a photo. So that really affects an individual and makes them fear even being on social media and sharing their life. And it's very traumatizing because every time you meet even a stranger who does not know about your life, they have an opinion about you. So it affects people a lot.
All right, I would also love to know that what challenges do these victims face in terms of articulating whatever forms of violence they're going through. Now, those forms that are not physical, what challenges are they facing?
I would go for the emotional abuse. For instance, in a case where a woman is being emotionally abused, this could be insults and there about your body, about how stupid or how your intellectual ability is, and that affects an individual. And people will tell you, as long as he's providing, why are you crying? Why are you saying that unaumizwa? So that happens a lot, and because there is no physical appearance to show the abuse that you're going through, not so many people will empathize with people. Not so many people will understand. They'll say it was just a few insults, he was just joking, why are you making a big deal out of it? Another thing that happens is a lot of gaslighting, because once you say the way he said this thing made me feel this way, someone will ask you, you will say you're overreacting, why are you blowing things out of proportion? So there are things that really, emotional abuse, more often than not, there is no evidence to show that, and people do not believe you. And the other question people will ask, what did you do for the person to react the way they did towards you? Yeah, so that's the challenge. There is a lot of stigma, there's a lot of gaslighting. In terms of economic violence, you'll find a woman being told, you're not going to work today, or you shouldn't go to work. You want to compete with me as a man of the house, or things like that. So that's also something, in a patriarchal society, people will think this is a good provider who does not want you to work. But in these tough economic times, we need as much support for each other to be able to keep the families running, to keep the children going to school, and things like that. So economic violence and emotional violence are very rampant things that happen, but people have normalized and treated as if they are not forms of violence.
Right.
And to add on to it,
yes.
And to add on to it, at times you'll find that most boys and also men, do not know the line when it comes to actually sexual violence. You find that when a lady says no, they'll think that she means she just needs to be pushed a little bit, and then or saying no, it means a yes. And at times when you engage with them and tell them, you know, there is marital rape, then they are unable to understand that having sexual intercourse with somebody who has actually told you no is a crime. And as organizations, we try to engage with them, with men, to understand that sexual violence and what it means. And nowadays, our courts, the judicial system has actually taken steps, and a lot of people who are exposed to perpetrators of violence, any form of violence, are sometimes given a stiff sentence if the evidence is sufficient enough to actually even send that person to jail. At other times, you don't understand economic violence, where you are responsible for taking care of your child, and you neglect that responsibility, or you deny your spouse the right of actually supporting them by actually using the resources that you do have to actually influence the way you want things to go in a relationship, which is not okay. Yeah.
All right, there's a question that's often asked to victims of GBV, and I know maybe you've come across it, our guest tonight. Why do people stay? I don't know. What do you have to say about that, Njoki?
People stay for various reasons. Number one, sometimes it's thinking, will my parents accept me once I go home? Will the society, how will people view me if I leave my marriage? And more often than not is maybe as a woman, people will think you did not persevere in that marriage. You didn't even try to make it work. So people are afraid of what will people say. Other people feel like I don't have a place to run to. There's also the idea that he will change or things will change. I will keep holding on. And you see, unless someone has made a decision that they really want to change, it's not something that you'll push them to change it. There's something called the cycle of abuse. So it starts by creating tension. You'll just feel, today we are not talking, it's Cold War, then tomorrow it's a bit of insults here and there, the food is too salty and things like that. And then from there it goes to the actual verbal abuse or the physical assault. From there it goes to a honeymoon stage where you're told, I am sorry, I didn't mean what I said. You're given grand gestures, a bouquet of flowers, a new Lexus is bought. So that makes you feel, okay, I don't think he's that bad, I just overreacted. And then it goes back to a place where there is now reconciliation, back again to the tension stage. So it becomes, before you realize how many times you've moved around the cycle, it takes too much time and you've invested a lot. Other people think investment has become a lot, so they don't want to leave. So there's so many reasons. Also financial inability, especially among the women. I have 2 children, 4 children to take care of. How am I going to sustain them after I leave this marriage, or after I leave this relationship? So there's so many factors.
Michael, do men stay?
Most of the time, men are also tied to a relationship, thinking that probably their partner would actually change. And at times we find that, like she has correctly put, the cycle continues. And you find that it reaches a point where now that person, the man, is unable to tolerate it. And then you find a situation where now somebody has been hurt or even killed. And in our day-to-day activities, when engaging boys and men, we try to sensitize them to identify and actually get to know the point where you can actually decide to you have had enough. Because continuing in a relationship where the relationship is toxic, it affects you psychologically, emotionally, and it drains you a lot. So once the boys and men are able to identify the types of violence that are there and the ones that they are being exposed to, then it's for them now to make an informed decision, either to seek counseling support, because through counseling you'll find that they are able to cope, and probably also their partner is brought in, is roped in to be able to actually sort the problems before they go to a different level altogether. Yeah, but the problem is not so many boys and men value the services of counselors. I think that if you go to a counseling session, you are somebody who is a weakling, or you will be exposed, your weaknesses will be exposed, and then what type of a man are you? Yeah, so those are some of the challenges that are there.
You know, one time I was scrolling through TikTok and I came across a video from certain boys, and they were saying, mwanaume unafanyiwa hivi kwa nini? You know, it was a form of violence in some way. It was a very bad word they were using there. Unafanyiwa hivi kwa nini? You know, that is a way of silencing this man. Now, what are you doing exactly to ensure that men are not stigmatized this much, especially on social media, now that that is also a form of GBV, from men to men, digital violence? Mary?
I think creating safe spaces, to know that when we talk about gender-based violence, it does not mean women. It means all genders. So when we say creating safe spaces, our organization is called Usikimie. Basically, usinyamaze. When things are going left, we have created a safe space for you to come out and talk to us. And the thing with our organization, we also ensure confidentiality. And that's maintaining the dignity of someone, so that when they come to us, they are assured that we are restoring their dignity. We are not there to expose or make them feel bare. So creating safe spaces, doing community outreach as well, ensuring that people are aware. Some people are going through physical abuse, emotional abuse, but they don't really know that it's a form of abuse. So starting by creating awareness, doing those community outreach, having interactions with the people on the ground, and understanding in these times, what are your struggles, what are you going through, do you think that where are the gaps that you need support, so that we are able to come up taking a preventative measure rather than coming when things are far too much gone.
Michael, do you think we are doing enough to also sensitize our young boys on the dangers of gender-based violence? Because I think if we were doing enough, then such a video that I came across on TikTok would have been something to be talked about today.
Okay, as a country, we have policies and action plans that are there with strategies of how to address issues of GBV. But when it comes to the community, there's still much that needs to be done. Why? Because you'll find, like the discussion that you had, or you saw on the social media, guys discussing about sexual gender-based violence and encouraging their peer not to tolerate such, to take action. You know, peer pressure at times also pushes a person, a boy or a man, to actually to react negatively. So the thing is, there are times you'll find that as peers, you identify that Michael is actually abusing his spouse, but you keep silent about it. Yeah, you find that in a community, you know your neighbor is actually doing something wrong, but you don't want to interfere because it's not your problem. Yeah, and you find that by doing so, the problem will continue. And nobody will talk about it within that community because it's not their issue. So what we do, we try to encourage boys and men. If you identify, because I remember when we were growing up, and you are walking on the streets and you see somebody bullying a lady or actually trying to rape a lady, we would actually take action and actually support that lady not to be exposed to any form of violence. But nowadays, nobody cares. In fact, they'll start taking or shooting videos with their phone. They have found content, yeah, and they want to share that content so that they get whatever viewers they want. So I think it's our responsibility as communities to actually act when we see violence, give evidence when it's required in a court of law, because sometimes somebody will be discharged after being charged with a crime of sexual abuse or gender-based violence because there was no sufficient evidence. And yet, I witness it happening because he is my neighbor and he actually does that continuously. And even sometimes I go without sleep because of that violence. Why can't I go and actually stand in a court of law and actually share whatever I have, the evidence that I have, so that this friend of mine is disciplined?
All right, let's take a look at the statistics on reported GBV cases in Kenya. And the general statistics says that physical violence, 47% of women aged 15 to 49 years have experienced physical violence. And in terms of sexual violence, 24% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced sexual violence. Now, what's worrying is I cannot see the data on men. Do we have them? Mike.
Yeah, that's the reason why we are saying we need to actually, there have been research and most of the research that are being done focus on women and children and girls. But we as an organization are also trying to get data on the men who are exposed to GBV, whatever form of gender-based violence. But at times you find that it's difficult to get that information because nobody comes out or even goes to report. Because I fear when I go to report a case of the experience that I'm experiencing of gender-based violence in a police station, the gender desk, you'll find a police officer who is also not trained or even have skills in actually handling cases of GBV, and they'll put me off by actually saying, Michael, wewe ni mwanaume, wewe unawezaje kuwa unapigwa ama unatoangwa kila siku na bibi yako, wewe ni mwanaume aina gani? So you see, such kind of situation will not encourage me to actually seek justice.
All right. Njoki, who is silencing our men?
He put it well. Number one, it starts by, is there a safe space for me to go report? Or even right at the desk where I should be getting the support is where I am made to feel like less of a person or less of a man. So I think the structures put in place for reporting. Also, like he said, the perspective that people have of a man reporting. Why are you being beaten? Are you not man enough? Already somebody is already questioning themselves before they even go speak out, before even the society gives them a verdict. They're already judging themselves, they're already harsh on themselves, and it also starts just right from childhood. Right from just a 4-year-old will be told, Dunalia kwa nini, wewe ni mwanaume. A 4-year-old, this is a child who should be able to express themselves. I think right from how the socialization is done in our community, how are we socializing the boys? How do we give them space? Do we create safe spaces for them to be able to express themselves? In a relationship, is there a perception that just the woman is the one who can be the victim or the survivor? Yeah. Are there am I also creating a safe space in my home for the partner that I have to feel safe enough to report? Is the family willing to be supportive towards a man? It's right from those basic units in the community. Yeah.
Of course, still on these statistics, we have, before I come to this, we have sexual violence. Approximately 12,000 cases of sexual violence were reported in 2023. That was reported by the National Council on the Administration of Justice. We have that right here, but I still want the focus to be here. And we have female genital mutilation, FGM, as a form of GBV. By the way, this is not talked much about GBV, FGM as a form of GBV. Yeah. It's still happening in some communities. How are we addressing this, Njoki?
So many communities are hush-hush about it. As recent as last week, I had a case of a 11-year-old girl who was molested and is expectant. And once you go to a community, the community that she comes from, the community that is very protective of their cultures. And some of these cultures are retrogressive. So vices like this will continue going on because this is something that has been reported to the local administration as simple as the chief in the area, but no action has been taken. So I think the process of reporting is not as it should be. Once I report a case, once a whistleblower says there is a case of FGM or a suspected raid that is supposed to happen in a certain area, that is enough to call us to action. But there is a lot of delay. This continues to happen. Even in those communities, again, you'll find the girls are being told, if you don't go through this, then you're not woman enough. In this day and age, it's still going on. In some, we might be ignorant of that. In some areas, education is also not as it should be. So not so many people also have the awareness and the exposure that this is not something that should be happening. And the risk that it poses to these girls and to these women.
All right, Mike, I want to come to you with this. This is a report by the National Police Service. Domestic violence has been the prevalent one in homes, with over 45,000 cases of domestic violence being reported. Now, what can be done to help this from a family level?
Okay, initially, you'd find that in a situation where there was turmoil in the homes, we had traditional mechanisms of actually addressing the issues that were cropping up in a relationship, and especially within a homestead. Nowadays, you'll find that with the advancement of our societies, you'll find that those family structures are no longer there. And in a situation where a case would be reported to the community elders, then they will take action and bring both parties together and try to sort out that issue. Nowadays, you'll find that in the cities where we live, you'll even go for a week without talking to your neighbor. You'll even experience so many challenges within your relationship, but you don't know who to talk to. So the reason why you find that with the empowerment of the girl child, and I'm sorry to say this, a lot of women are nowadays empowered to a situation where they know their rights. And the boy child finds himself in a situation where he is unable to cope with the pressures of life. For instance, traditionally, men are the providers. Nowadays, you find that has tilted in the other way. We find that the woman can also provide. So that role that a man used to play is shared. So the responsibilities are shared. In a situation where you find you are unable to bring in bread as a man, then there is a problem. And that is where trouble, domestic violence starts. The man feels that they are not being respected as the head of the family. and that a woman cannot control the kind of lifestyle that he wants within that space. So you find that being unable to cope with so many people nowadays, especially boys and men, being unable to cope with the challenges of life, you find that they resort to domestic violence to sort out their issues. And they wouldn't want even the lady or their spouses to talk about it, even in their chamas or religious institutions, like when they go to church, because they'll feel offended and the situation will continue. And in the long run, you'll find that either party is injured, or the children are also involved in the mix and they get hurt in one way or another.
Joki, let me bring you in now. In such a situation, what are you doing to help them from a family perspective? Do you bring them together for counseling? Have you received families who have reported cases of domestic violence coming to you, and you counsel them or deal with them from a spouse's perspective?
Yes. Once we receive a case, maybe for instance a woman came in hurt, physically hurt, the first initiative is, number one, going to hospital, getting the medical support that they need to get, and then now the psychological support, and being able, number one, to understand that how are they feeling about the whole situation, what action do they want to take, because again, what we do at Usikimia is we are very survivor-centered and person-centered, would I say. We are dealing with the individual at first, and then once they're able to recover, then can we have a comprehensive care for them? Can we talk to the other party? Can we understand what led to these challenges? Then we're able to do a case management where we're able to do individual sessions, and then at the end of it, now we can do joint session or couple sessions just to ensure that we are walking in the right direction. It does not necessarily mean that they will reconcile, but it also means that can we ensure safety, not only of the parties involved, but maybe of the children that are bred in that family. So it has to be a collective decision as well, and an individual decision for someone, because you cannot push someone to stay in a situation that they do not want to be in anymore. So it has to be a variety of factors have to be considered before making a decision of how do we go about this.
All right, now because of time, I want us to take a look at the impacts of gender-based violence. This is the last one, but let's start from the top, from the data I have here. Physical health. WHO reports that injuries and chronic health issues will be reported, including increased risk of HIV and AIDS. Mental health is also an impact there. The CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control, says there will be psychological trauma and suicidal tendency. We have economic impact, that is the loss of employment or financial burden. And we have social impact, this is isolation and stigmatization or disruption of day-to-day life. And now we have legal and justice system impact. This underreporting and challenges in a prosecution. Why are we facing this, Njoki? Challenges in prosecution.
I'd start with the underreporting. Whenever there is a case, for instance, of domestic violence, neighbors have heard about it. Family members have heard about it, but nobody is willing to even point out that this is something that needs to be reported and dealt with with the heaviness that it deserves. When you talk about femicide, femicide is preceded by domestic violence. Someone does most, if you look at 75% of the cases that are reported of domestic violence and even femicide, they are perpetuated by someone well known to the person. It's not usually a stranger. 15% would be strangers, but 75% is someone who is well known to the person. So normalization. The community around you have already settled in with the situation. Again, watu wanasema mambo ya watu wawili wamejifunika duve moja is none of your business.
Right.
So this makes you, this makes me feel ashamed to go report. This makes a man feel emasculated. Where do I go report this? People already know in this estate that this woman shouts at me or these things are happening. So people will not come out to report. Again, once they go to report, right from the gender desk, maybe someone will be told you need to go fill in a P3 form that requires money. In the community that we work in, even getting food is a challenge. So imagine being told you need to get a P3 and things like that. So the strategy is as simple as that. Transport for me to go appear in court and give my statement. I do not have that. So that impends me getting justice because even in the case of maybe rape, how do I preserve the evidence of the rape? Do I have information that I need to go to hospital within 72 hours for the right test to be conducted, for the PRC form to be filled? Lack of information. Again, the slow process. Once a case goes in court, how long is it taking for me to get justice? We could look at the case of Rita Waini. This is a case that happened in 2019. When has the verdict been put? 2024. A long time is taken for us to get justice. Hence, someone along the way will lose hope, will stop pursuing the case, will feel like there's no need for me to continue pursuing this if I'm not getting justice. In between, like I said, a lot is going on. Not so many lawyers are also willing to take up cases of gender-based violence. It's draining to be in gender-based violence because you're constantly having to listen to someone who is in pain, someone who is going through a lot. Not so many people are also willing to uptake cases in that area. So it takes so long for somebody to get justice.
Right, you've mentioned a very good point right there, but because of time, that lawyers are not willing to take up these cases, and that is so saddening to hear. But because of time, Mike, and in 1 minute, what should be done to ensure that these victims get justice?
Okay, I think one of the most important thing that needs to be done is actually the collection of evidence. At times when you find that somebody has been sexually violated, and because of not being aware that they are not supposed to shower or take a bath before going to the police station and even to the hospital, they'll have done that. And they'll even be pushed to go and report because they are not aware that when you are abused sexually, there is need for you to go and report. There's a situation where at times the prosecution are challenged because of compromising the evidence. You know, with money in our country, you can do so many things. You can buy even you can even actually delay justice so that at least you are able to escape prosecution. There are so many challenges in terms of prosecution, and I think as a community, we try to sensitize the communities to be aware and to actually even know their rights. And I think there are interventions that work together with the legal fraternity to actually sometimes pick the cases and take up cases and see to it that the culprits are taken to court.
All right. Thank you so much for gracing To The Point. This is a conversation that, of course, cannot end at this level. And as we've seen, we need a lot of time to really just dissect the topic of GBV. Now, from what I've gotten is that gender-based violence requires all of us to step up. There needs to be a lot of education in that, and as well as collective action. Our guest tonight was Mary Njoki Minor, a programs assistant at Usikimye, and Michael Onyango, a member of the Men Engage Alliance. Thank you so much for making time once again. Thank you so much for watching. That brings us to the end of our conversation tonight and to the end of To The Point. Have a wonderful night and see you next time, inshallah. My name is Odida.